have an awesome episode of Ignite Healthcare Marketing Podcast with our VP of Own and Earned Media, Rob Sauter. Rob, good to have you back. I think it's been a few months since we recorded one of these together.
Yeah. Sharing the love with the rest of the team.
Yeah, well, this one is a good one, a hot topic, AI and what is happening in the world of SEO. You know, we did an early episode on kind of what was changing, and the what is obviously really important. But I think now, as everyone's learning, it's becoming a lot more what to do with that information. Like, how do I change my strategies to adapt to the landscape? So today we want to bring you guys some real tactical insights and opportunities, how we are changing what are, maybe traditional SEO programs to look more like AIO plus SEO plus UX and all the things that really go into still earning the business. So Rob, kind of teeing us up here. I know we've talked a lot about ChatGPT, the obvious ones. We've got those new kind of Google search generative experience that Google is experimenting with. There's just so many popping up every day. And what we're noticing is that traditional rankings, you go on your SEMrush and your traffic looks like it's going down. That's because all the zero-click experience is really evolving. So what do we do with that information? How do we track that information? And how important is that to still winning business? So Rob, I think teeing us up here, I would like to start with your thoughts on how the landscape has shifted. And I know I called out a few things, but really I think the last 3 months have been dramatically different than they were last year.
Yeah, even since we did a webinar, I think in April, we talked a lot about the tips and tricks. And honestly, all the tips and tricks from that webinar certainly hold true, but a lot has changed since April, especially in the healthcare search space. So for example, we're obviously seeing not only a continued adoption of AI, but also a lot of changes in Google. So if you've been paying attention to your SEO in the healthcare space in Google, since around March, the SERP features have absolutely ramped up like crazy. We've seen this across all of our clients. Effectively, every client that was competing outside of their brand terms in SEO saw their SERP features triple, quadruple, and it's only just started here now in July following the last Google algorithm update flatline. So we'll see. For now, it seemingly found its balance. And obviously the SERP features include the AI elements, but also other aspects like maps and even the people also ask features, all things. There's actually some new social media elements now within Google that's being surfaced. All things that both incorporate AI as we tend to know it, like the actual AI tools, but also ways Google's using AI behind the scenes to better crawl and understand information. A really fun example I saw, this is tested and not yet actually stated by Google, but there have been some really interesting tests in the SEO space recently that show actually creating and updating your Google business profile images are actually helping ranking. In fact, some people tested adding words to the images. So saying best dentist in, Atlanta, right in the graphic. And that actually
almost like a little display banner instead of just a picture. Yeah.
The theory is because of some of the elevations and some of those images is that Google is using AI to look at images and get context from images and then use that as a ranking factor. So again, Google hasn't owned it yet, but these are examples of how very likely Google's using new AI tools to help impact outside of just the tools that you and I use.
Yeah. So you think about all those traditional tips and tricks. We've talked about technical crawlability, indexability, these crawlers, whether they're now kind of the AI crawlers or the traditional ones, still need to be able to access the information when they get there. The information, the content needs to be helpful, unique, specific. That stuff all holds true. What's really changed, I think I heard you make a statement that the AI engines are now recommendation engines. I thought that was really interesting. We used to talk about backlinks. Backlinks are like likes. It's like a recommendation. And now that concept of a recommendation is really holding true beyond just, can I put the best content out and win my way to the top?
Yeah, traditional SEO was built on website, and that's how it all started, the web, et cetera. And it was really focused on brands. You build websites for, generally speaking, products or information. You don't build it for an answer to a single question, at least not anymore. Now with AI, yes, you're not really necessarily fighting for that rank, that position. You're really fighting for that recommendation. And that comes from a lot more different sources. And we've seen it in the AI space a lot. One statistic I shared with the team this week that I really like is that when you look at the click-through rate from Google SERP position, and you look at how the human click-through rate on Google is behaving, that first spot is nearly 30% click-through rate, and it plummets down to 15 and then 10. And then, obviously trails off from there. When you look at the Chat GPT citation, and when it looks at what position that Chat GPT likes to cite, whether it's cited or not, it drops all the way down to just below 10% for number one, and then around 7, and then 6, and 5. It's a much more even distribution. And to the point in which by the time you hit rank 7, the actual ChatGPT citation is higher than the human click-through rate. So again, as the human click-through rate trails off to eventually 0, the ChatGPT is much more level, and it shows that yes, being first probably means you have valuable content, and you still deserve to be cited. There's so much other great content out there, and I think that's a great insight because those of us who work in SEO know that people like to fight over that first spot, but it's less important now. Now it's about having good, solid content in the top spots. We're even learning things like the way that Claude came out and showed a lot of its back end and how it's crawling and what it's doing, and it kind of exposed some of its process to us, the professional marketers of the world. And one of the things that people deduced there was that it's using more of a topical ranking platform. So instead of just looking at a page and ranking it, it'll look at multiple pages on your site together all around certain topics and kind of utilize a weighted score with all of those pages together to position you in the rank, which is, again, different from how things had happened before and helps emphasize some of the things we knew were important, like topical authority, but it gives you a chance to differentiate and not have to just focus on these one or two big pages and have it be a win or lose scenario. So yeah, there's a lot of really good information, lots of really interesting insights. Some of the things I'm most excited about since our last call is, I think, when I landed the webinar, one of the things I said was, we really don't have a measurement platform that we can use.
Yeah.
There's some little things here and little things there, but that's changed significantly since then. Now it's a bit of a software, land race, if you will. It's an arms race on the software front to create platforms. And, we over here at Cardinal now started tracking prompts and tracking different elements of AI across, at this point, we're around 7 different engines, tracking your presence, tracking your perception, and even tracking your performance and indexability within the AI platform. So it's not quite obviously as robust as what we can track in SEO, which has had decades of time to build out platforms. The other thing about SEO that made it easier is, for the last how many years, Google's truly been the dominant space search. We're in an environment now where, sure, ChatGPT, Google, they're a bit ahead, but there are, reasonably speaking, 6, 7, 8 different platforms people use. Imagine if there were 7 versions of Google that held a significant enough margin share to care. That would certainly make measurement more tricky. I think that's where kind of we're at now, but the insights have been amazing. We've made some really cool decisions for clients and drawn some really cool insights from being able to truly track prompts over time and create time series data to analyze.
Well, and I think what's really interesting, you started out by saying, like, the content side of things, what you do on your site, obviously you can control. And that was so much of what earned you top position in SEO. Now that perception component is made up of so many other off-site mentions of your brand. What are you seeing are the big opportunities for organizations to keep an eye on things, look at your perception, try to manage that better?
Yeah, it's a really good point. We've made a few really cool insights lately with clients on this topic exactly. So we're seeing a lot of importance come back to PR. I think we're moving a little bit away from the link buying and just frantic link building of previous SEO and looking at more of that value-based, structured-based PR, especially in local businesses. Getting, a bunch of links might help, but getting those local links showing that you're connected in that community, that's making a big difference. One of my favorite examples that we've seen recently, and it's becoming very important, is, and this is obviously in healthcare, where we have professionals, providers working with humans. The metaphor I used is, have you ever checked Glassdoor before going to a restaurant?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. Yeah. It's not a place you go to check out a restaurant. You go to many other places.
Servers like working there. Yeah.
But yeah, you never wonder what it's like to be a waitress or how they treat their waitresses or chefs. However, now with AI, especially in healthcare, when you search and you ask questions about a particular brand, a particular location, a particular provider, hospital system, etc., it will pull data from Reddit. It will pull data from Glassdoor. It will pull data from PR sources. It will pull data from, frankly, everywhere it can kind of get its AI fingers in the internet, and it will surface that information. And it will still tell you up front what's most important. Things like, great care, great reviews from patients. But now it will also surface direct statistics and information around, corporate culture is a mess, or providers are unhappy, or really high turnover rates. And, those are the types of things that can make, especially if you're looking at healthcare for a child. As a parent, and Lauren also as a parent, you'd hesitate to think like, geez, like, this place is turning over providers, way above industry average. And, do I want, my child who might need a specific kind of specialty care to have to go through the, process of meeting a new stranger, or me trusting with, my child with a stranger often, or even worse, maybe not even the turnover, but an unhappy person who's overworked and stressed out and writing about it online? I mean, is that somebody I want to be, caring for my, frankly, most important thing in the universe? I don't know. But again, that's information you probably wouldn't have seen by going to websites, et cetera. Again, unless you were...
I would have never played into the result before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's impacting people. Same with that PR element, they'll surface, scary PR stories, et cetera. And there's some you can do, marketing can combat that a bit, but at the end of the day, it's helping surface real business opportunities, and being a part of the marketing team is being part of the business team, and being able to talk to some of the leadership at our clients and say, here's an issue that we've identified.
Are going to be even more important now than ever.
Yep.
Healthcare marketers, what's up? It's Alex from the future. Guess what? Scaling Up, the Healthcare Performance Marketing Summit is back. Scaling Up is focused entirely on driving patient acquisition to your group. So you're talking the largest provider groups, health system leaders, everything it takes to drive a patient to your practice or health system, from media, BI, analytics, performance creative, SEO, AI, because we've got to have that acronym in there. October 28th and 29th, thousands of healthcare marketers are going to be showing up to this. It's virtual and it is free. That's the best part. Last 2 years, we were charging for it. This year, I want every healthcare marketer to come. We need to connect more patients with care. We all do. We all need to do it together. I'll see you there. Scaling Up.
You talked about kind of this concept. In some cases, the AI result is maybe additive or complementary to the traditional SEO result. And that may be happening in certain types of searches. And in others, it's really cannibalizing it. Can you talk a little bit about like the types of searches, the search intent funnel? Like, where are you seeing more cannibalization? Where are you seeing it be more complementary?
Yeah. I keep telling all my clients, in this case, healthcare clients, that at least we know at the moment, AI is not curing anybody. You're not logging into ChatGPT and getting rid of your allergies or fixing your broken arm. So generally speaking, the demand hasn't changed. How people find care has. And I think what we've seen, a lot of the declines have come from think of like the WebMD type search, the what is, the what are, the when should I's, when should I go to the doctor when my child has a fever, what temperature's, a scary one, or a rash, something I can treat topically, or should I go see a dermatologist more urgently? These are things that AI is certainly
mid-funnel type of searches.
Are certainly helping with. Now, I do see, and we have seen in a lot of cases when volume and traffic have come down, especially in sort of those what is, what are, those very early discovery. We have seen traffic kind of maintain, maybe slip just a tiny bit. To be honest, sometimes it's just shifting to AI. And if you're not tracking your GPT, referral traffic as part of your organic, you're just not getting the whole measure of the whole. It's still a smaller percent generally, but people are still taking those final steps. They're still searching your brand. They're still going to your location pages. They're still going to your, Google business profiles, and they're still experiencing and, reading what you have to say. And I think that's where, and we've been encouraging a lot, that's where you really want to drive that why us and that trust factor home. Build out those case studies, build out those testimonial videos, build out the unique value proposition. I said it on the webinar, say it every day. I'll say it here again. Being close and having doctors is not enough anymore in healthcare. Yeah. People are a little more involved, especially, there's a lot of rhetoric and conversation going around in healthcare and insurance and all this. Like people care, and they want to know, other than just being the most convenient option, what is it about you that differentiates? And, again, think like a hospital system. They all have that answer. Every hospital in America, in my opinion, most of them at least, know how they compare to the 2 or 3 other hospitals nearby. Are they the most clinical? Are they the best experience? Are they the most compassionate? Are they priced better? Sometimes it's simple as that. But that's really important right now, both for AI to be able to glean that and have it backed up by things like reviews and provide that as a recommendation, but also for the people who find out about you in AI and want to figure out a little bit more about you. I don't think I've heard a few people talk about how websites are dead and applications and things are taking. It's definitely not anywhere near there yet.
Yeah.
Maybe in some cases, like maybe news and things will slowly kind of change formats, but with localized healthcare, people, there's still a person, there's still a
It's still
place,
going to end
people
you
still care.
ultimately on someone's site. Yeah. I think the narrowing of options, the understanding of best perception, that's kind of its role there, right? And then you're going to ultimately, like you said, you're going to get that bottom funnel click through based on, the content that they've consumed to help them get to that point.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how often AI is wrong. I mean, I have lots of clients where we show them the perception and it will say, this brand still operates with this model. And, the client will say, like, actually, that's not true. We've updated and changed that model, about a year ago. But you find out, like, that's what people are being told in the AI space. And it might even be an opinion. AI got that information somewhere. So it's either outdated content on the internet, outdated reviews, et cetera. So there's opportunities there. AI only knows what it can go find. And especially the more niche you are, the more you actually have an opportunity to control that narrative. I think like the Nikes and Adidases of the world probably have lost some control. It's so big and so well talked about. But in niche healthcare, you absolutely, what I see in AI is sometimes 60% of the opinion of AI is driven directly from the website. And these websites, again, aren't in many cases doing a good enough job selling themselves, both to the consumer and to the AI that will help make that recommendation.
So if taking this from, what's going on to tactical, if organizations are experiencing that, what should they be doing? I know you talked about PR, there's on-site content opportunities. Like if you feel like AI's got it wrong, or you feel like you should be seen as the best in these results and you are not showing up for those things, your clinical care is excellent. Why can't Google understand that? What do you need to be doing? Give us like 3 to 5 strategies.
Yeah. So the first is, and this is something I learned since the webinar, get in on the platforms, either find a measurement tool or just open up a whole bunch of tabs with different platforms and find out through a few different options, a few different prompts, who is showing up and who isn't. So for example, we found a few times that, I'll just keep with the dentist, example right now. We found that, we had clients that dominated dentists near me or dentist in such and such on SEO. And then we went into AI and we found, we don't even show up. Why is that? Well, it turned out certain AI platforms read the term dentist as a human and not as a dentist office or a dentist brand. What we found was, okay, well, we need to start writing some content about our dentists and the dentists in this community and what they've been able to achieve and help, so we can appear at all for these terms. Where we're appearing 80% of the time or better in the top 3%, 3 positions in SEO. On AI, we're not showing up at all. We're showing up like 3% of the time. It was crazy. So you really have to go understand, if you want to rank for AI, what is the logic? Take a look at it, understand how it gathers information and what it actually is displaying. And that can help you understand, is there just gaps in my program altogether? I think that's one of the big ones. From there, it's a combination of, I think that the big opportunity now, especially in healthcare, is creating a combination of sort of long form and strong content. It has been shown that really robust first party is key. Say something interesting, say something unique, have a quote from a provider, have a byline. Really bring something specialized to the table, and don't hesitate to do something a bit more robust and a bit longer. It's shown that longer form content, well linked, well articulated, and first party content does tend to be better linked and better cited in AI. So that's another, interesting tip. But I also think having a variety of content in topic is also really important. We've seen that blogging has been obviously a huge element, and that's great. Blogging is not bad. I'm not saying you get away from blogs, especially if you're doing it well and strategically, but bringing things like infographics, bringing things like videos, YouTube's still one of the top search, maybe the top search engine in the United States right now. Maybe not necessarily for healthcare, but generally creating that variety of content that is now crawlable. You don't need to just have blogs anymore. AI can kind of understand and see different forms, especially images of content. That variety also really helps because AI likes to provide variety in its results, unless you search something very specific.
And Rob, if you're talking, let's say you're using a tool, and we'll end kind of what the tools are to give everybody some direction there. You're using a tool and you're finding out that the perception of your business, although you may not feel that this is true, is, related to billing or wait times or these kind of things, online scheduling, availability, cancellation policies, like things that, play into perception and people like to go online and talk about, but maybe have nothing to do with the quality of care, but they're still affecting your ability to return results. We're talking things like get out there, make a, process or policy on and publish how you do your billing. So things like, creating a one-sheeter or a YouTube video with, showing people this is how to tackle these billing challenges. This is who to call. Like, get out there, understand. And I think this will tie really nicely into walk us through some of the tools, understand the prompts people are searching for, understand what it's returning, why it's returning you, why it's not returning you, what the top perceptions are across the board, and then tackle those head on in FAQs, in video, publish them to YouTube, put them on your site. Like those things, although, your end user may use them periodically, are also really going to help the AI engines understand that you do care about this thing. You recognize that it's an area of opportunity and you're putting effort into it.
Yeah. It's also great data. I've had a lot of the CMOs I work with just say like, this is great. We knew this was sort of a problem, but this data, this visualization, this insight is something I can take back to the business, help them understand how I can help as a marketer, but also help them understand from a business perspective that we do need to put time and resources against either fixing billing if it's broken or making the employee experience better, or at the very least, trying to capture great employee experiences so we can put those on the internet. And I think the only thing I'd add is one thing. It's kind of an obvious trick, and it's probably published out there, but it's worth citing again. Is when you're searching on these AI engines, you can ask them directly, why did you show these people? Why did you show these brands? How did you pick? Put that in a table for me and weight it by importance. And it will actually show you like its logic table and why it pulled it. You can even ask questions like, why did you not show my brand? And it will usually give you an explanation. Well, you're not as, localized in this environment. I thought these are more specialized answers, etc. And sometimes what I really like to do with my clients is try different versions. So let's say, you're a physical therapy brand. And this is an example I did the other day is, search best general physical therapy, best sports physical therapy in my area, best rehab physical therapy, and you'll get different results. And I think that's an opportunity to uncover, are we ranking the way we thought we would in these outcomes? And is this an opportunity? Should we lean in? For example, if you're ranked number 1 in one of those categories, but 4 or 5 in the others, maybe that's part of our value prop. Maybe that's something we should lean into more, as we kind of already are, without even maybe on purpose doing it. That's how the industry, that's how the humans, that's how our reviewers see us as an expert in a certain area. Sometimes it is better, especially in the world of SEO and AI, to lean in to something advantageous and not try to be all things.
Yeah. And when it comes to really discovering these insights, tell us the tools, tell us what you like, what you've tried. I know, like you said, it's an arms race right now when it comes to all these these tools coming out and producing their AI ranking features.
Yeah, there's some cool tools out there. I think a lot of the big traditional SEO players are working to have their tool participate. So the Ahrefs has got some new interesting features that help understand AI and value. They did an interesting podcast recently talking about actually how they actually see the resurgence of brand measurement in this space. As attribution gets trickier, what are some ways to prove that your, SEO, your organic, your PR is working? Is your brand, are brand searches for your brand increasing? So that was interesting. And again, their platform's evolving. You're seeing some in places like AccuRanker that can pull things in. SEMrush has a really nice enterprise AI platform that does good measurement. Expensive, if I'm being totally transparent with you. Yext has something they're working on called Scout. I don't know if it's officially released yet. This is an agency been able to see on the back end. It's super cool. It's one of the, I would call it one of the more like next generation AI tools. Like the graphic in the user interface is super neat. It's like a globe. It's almost like a Google Maps, and it puts almost looks like a video game. It has like territories mapped around your locations with how you rank by color. So it's kind of this like cool view, and that's going to be an interesting tool. The one we like right now that is a really exciting kind of brand to follow. They do a lot of great thought leadership as well, but we've been utilizing the Profound platform. Bang for the buck. It's so good, in my opinion. It's a really, really well-priced platform. It really can let you get in and get started. It's completely customizable, which is nice. So don't want to turn this into a commercial for Profound, but really nice tool. Lets you track your competitors. I joked with you, Lauren, and with our CEO, Alex, once that man, we could almost start a whole new business unit on competitive intelligence based on some of the elements of these platforms, which is really exciting. But you can customize your competitors, customize your prompts, I think like keyword sets to measure, and it tracks across, again, at the moment, I think 8 now different AI platforms, from ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google, 3 different versions of Google. So the AI mode, the AI overviews in Gemini, Copilot, Grok, and Meta AI. So it's exciting and it's a cool tool. And that's one we've been setting up a lot of our clients on and running some really exciting pilots on.
And really easy to stand up. Like, Rob, you
Very.
gave me a sheet and told me I was building one for a sales prospect. You gave me a sheet. It took me
day.
7 minutes to just set it up, and then you can tinker with it once you get up and running. So
Yep.
really
And on the
cool.
back end, just even connecting on our side, our dashboards are now connecting directly into referral traffic, which is great. So, Alex Kemp on our team has helped me set up some dashboards for our clients that can track how many sessions, how many leads, are you getting referred in through AI. Now, it's still not as high as you think. I believe, this is my own thought and my own insight, but I believe people are still using AI and then Googling and clicking.
Doing typical
and searching.
navigation experience.
Exactly. Yeah. It's still not, I talk about this a lot, but AI is still not there yet on the user experience. Like, even though it cites things, it doesn't make it super easy always to click. It doesn't say, here are the top 5 brands and here's a big button to click to go to
You
their
got this
homepage.
tiny little gray thing in the bottom that you're like, what is that? Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't make it obvious. And maybe that's because it doesn't want you to leave. Maybe it wants you to stay on AI and work there forever. But I think people are still clicking away from their AI tab and searching more traditional ways. But that will eventually change, I think. And being able to set that measurement up is nice. I mean, there's hundreds of leads for some of our larger clients coming in through AI that we weren't taking credit for, in the digital media standpoint. And I'm sure, our digital partners are excited to have a couple hundred leads, added to their spreadsheet. Obviously, the business was still capturing that growth, but it doesn't hurt to be able to show marketing is doing good work through new channels.
Yeah, I think that gap in attribution is a little scary for marketers right now. I know it's coming, my traffic is down, but my leads are not. I just can't really point to where they're coming from. And then you start to get questions, and am I making the right investment? So totally get it. Summing us up here for marketers, actions to take right now: get yourself on one of these tools. Like, data is power, knowledge is power. You need to know what is happening. I know you talked about the fundamentals, your core web vitals, your crawlability, indexability, that has not changed. Like, those things are table stakes. Really thinking about your content and using the data that you get from those AI tools around the prompting trends to inform your content strategies. And then you got to work on any perception gaps, take those to your ops team and start to bring them that data and talk about, as an organization, how you're going to tackle those things. So anything I missed there, Rob, summing us up?
No, it's still, Alex likes to tease us too. There's a lot of the same programs still going on. Don't abandon your website. Don't abandon content. I think it's really coming down to, you can't just, with AI, it's not as easy. You still kind of can, but it's not as easy to just brute force your way past your competition by just pumping out more content and pumping out, more of a presence in the Google ecosystem. Now you really have to have something interesting to say. So if you haven't thought about it before, start thinking about it now. And not only just publishing it, you really got to believe it, because it's going to have to be backed up in reviews. It's going to have to be backed up in PR and, partnership, votes of confidence from referrers and things like that. So I think that's the best opportunity. Really find out what makes you, the why that, your patients love you and choose you and recommend you to their friends, because that's the story you want to start telling more aggressively, more creatively, in this SEO space, so you can win that recommendation. And then otherwise, do your best to keep up with the exciting changes we're seeing in this space. I mean, we have AI browsers that are being talked about. We've got Cloudflare doing funny monetization things in the background. Like, things are going to continue to change. And I don't think this is a bold statement. We're not going to be that far off, really, I don't think, from some kind of monetization play in AI. It just makes sense. Google's making billions of dollars like every afternoon on search. There's just no way these funded back, AI organizations aren't thinking aggressively on how they can monetize this type of thing.
Yeah, love it. Rob, thank you so much for the insights. This is a topic I have no doubt we will, probably be doing a monthly episode on, because it is evolving so quickly. So thanks for bringing us up to speed on where things are at and sharing some good tips. Everybody, thank you for listening to another episode of Ignite. Like, share, comment, post it on LinkedIn, tell your friends. If anybody wants to talk about AI optimization, what's going on in SEO, feel free to reach out. Rob and I love to chat with you guys about it. So Rob, have a good weekend.
Yeah, thank you.